Welcome to Psychic Bent. My name is Carrie.
And I'm Kim. We are two sisters wanting to help other psychics learn and grow in their abilities and to help educate about spirits, angels, and everything psychic.
Welcome back to Psychic Bent. We hope you have enjoyed the Psychic Toolbox series that we have been doing. This week we are going to cover Toolless psychics and building psychic confidence, and we may touch upon some other things along the way. So, Carrie, why don't you start us off with what are Toolless psychics and how that relates to what we've been discussing with the toolbox?
Well, I'm going to recap the top 10 tools in your toolbox because we obviously are not going to go through all the tools. We just, if something's resonating to you off the top 10 list, go research it, check it out. And then we're going to segue right into Toolless psychics. But I do have to say, it's really funny. You know, Kim and I come up with a lot of the same things. We both Googled Toolless psychics, and what popped up were all these topless psychic sites. And who knew? Who knew? It's a thing, guys. Who knew? Not my thing, not Kim's thing, but it's
not
a thing.
My thing.
So evidently there's, people, there's a need for it, I guess. I don't know. I would find that distracting in a reading, but that's just me. So if you Google Toolless psychics, be prepared. It's all, yes. No one prepared us. You've been warned. If you check it out, This is what you're going to see. You might see more than you want. But we did not click on anything. Well, I didn't click on it. I can't talk for you, Kim, but I didn't click on anything.
Yeah, don't do an images search. You don't know what's going to be there.
Yeah. May not want to see that. All right, so I'm good.
And hang on, and don't search it at work.
Oh yeah, don't do it. Yeah. And that's how you got called to employee relations.
Yep.
But so I just want to preface that. So don't do that kind of research unless that's your thing. You can start your own little niche in your town, I guess, if you want to start being. I mean, that'll get you really out of the closet.
Oh, definitely. And other things.
And other things, yeah. Yeah, you might become popular in town. Who knows? But
who knows?
Who knows? So, we gave you the preface of how long these tools, each of the individual ones we went over. I'm just going to give you a brief recap of the ones that we have gone over, and then the ones we haven't gone over. So, number one, and Oracle cards didn't make the top 10 list, so I'm just going to throw Oracle cards in with the tarot cards, because number one is tarot, or tarot. It depends on how you want to pronounce it. I've heard it pronounced both ways, and I think I kind of go back and forth with it. So tarot or tarot cards, they're number one, the most popular tool since the late 1400s, which we talked about. The most popular deck is the Rider-Waite, was made in 1910, and is known for its symbols, colors, and royal suits. As a divination tool, tarot cards are shuffled and cut by the user or client before being played out as a spread. The most popular spread is the Celtic Cross, though many enjoy the past, present, future love spread. Tarot cards act as a mirror of the person's soul. Thus, you can interpret a card by looking into yourself. They act as a projection to see things from a higher plane that would otherwise be hidden in the physical.
Boy, that recaps that real well.
Yeah. Probably could have just done that instead of the whole episode. I don't know. But
no, you had more info.
Okay. All right. So next, number two is astrology. Astrology has to do with the position and alignments of the constellations and how they can influence the behaviors of people, animals, and nature. This ancient system was developed in 3000 BCE by the Babylonians and Chaldeans. I don't think I said that correctly. Chaldeans, maybe, who used it to map the location of stars. Ancient Greeks refined the design by dividing the 12 constellations into 30-degree quadrants, which that's what Kim talked to us about on the astrology episode. Mm-hmm. Today, we use astrology to read the traveling planets, area of life, and their association with the star sign personality. Much can be seen by reading a person's or specific event's astrological chart, as you can find the perfect time to make essential choices and discover why certain historical events occur.
That wrapped that one up real good too.
Well, I hope they all get wrapped up. Now, number
Yeah.
3. Now, I was surprised that number 3 was automatic writing. And we've talked about automatic writing before. We just never dedicated it to, a whole episode, obviously. But yeah, number 3 is automatic writing.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't do that one.
I know.
Because that is something that you have so much experience with.
And
And
I
a
do.
lot of people
Yeah.
do the automatic writing as well.
Yeah. Oh,
Especially in ghost hunting and stuff.
yes. So before I go over my paragraph for automatic writing, we had talked about many episodes ago, not a couple, many episodes ago, when we were discussing automatic writing, that, I was told to stay close to home instead of going to the paranormal convention that I normally do that took place in June.
Right.
And that was what September of last year is when I was told to stay close to home in my automatic writing session. And I stayed close to home, and we found out why I needed to be close to home. My father's heart rate was in the 40s. And so he was in and out of the hospital for about 2 weeks, got a pacemaker. And that was the time frame I would have been gone.
Yes, it was.
Yes. So we know automatic that helps build my confidence in automatic writing. And we're going to go into building your confidence, your psychic confidence. But this was where it didn't tell me what was going to happen. It just told me to stay close to home. So I did it without, but I really want to go and blah, blah, blah. I thought, well, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to stay close to home. And sometimes you don't really see why you needed to be where you needed to be.
Yeah, it's not apparent a lot of times as to why you're getting the message that you're getting.
Right.
You just have to wait it out and just make certain you follow the message that you're getting.
Exactly, and trust in it. So Kim and I were discussing that the other day. I said, well, now we know why I had to stay close to home, and it worked out very well. He's doing remarkably well. He's doing
Yes.
very well. But yeah, so that would be why. So automatic writing is divinely inspired writing is poured onto paper by the hand and pen of the psychic. The psychic can be fully awake or in a trance, but using automatic writing as a tool can open you up to receive the hidden knowledge of the universe. Depending on where the visions take you, they can sometimes be used to scribble pictures and images. Now, Kim had made a comment about sometimes it's used in ghost investigations, and we've watched the Dead Files. No, and
Right.
no, and yes, she took over Amy's spot. Yeah,
Yes.
what's her name? I love
Yes.
her. She's one of my favorite psychics. Cindy Casa.
Yeah, there you go.
So Cindy Casa has been on many of these ghost investigating shows, and she took over for Amy in the Dead Files. And if you're into those kind of shows, you really got to start with season 1 and just go the whole gamut. It's really a good show. It's very good in investigating. But Cindy does automatic writing, where she'll draw pictures and that. So if you want to see it done, you can watch, one of the more current ones. I think I haven't gone through the whole season of Dead Files, so I haven't finished because I don't do a lot of TV. So I don't know if Cindy does it. Have you seen that with Cindy on there? Has she done it?
She has done it before. I haven't finished the whole season myself neither.
Okay. So
There's something called our podcast that has kept me pretty occupied.
I know, and editing, and I know that's why between my craft stuff and the podcast, it's like, okay, not a lot of TV, which is good. I didn't watch a lot of TV to begin with, so.
Yeah.
So if you want to see it done, Cindy Kaza, and that's with a K, K-A-Z-A, she does it, and she's been on TV doing it. So if you are just curious what it looks like, I would Google Cindy. And number 4 is ruins, and we didn't go over ruins. Now, ruins originated in Northern Europe, and each ruin stone contains an alphabetic meaning. There are 24 stones and each stone holds a meaning. They serve as a tool to seek knowledge and make sense of your situation. They can also be used to mark territory and cast a spell, just as the ancient African religions threw bones, coins, and shells on a diagram. Ruins are used similarly in modern times to interpret messages and manipulate energy. Sounds very interesting.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Now, number 5 was scrying. Now, scrying, I've seen done, and you've seen it done too on, we're really big into watching paranormal stuff, gang. Kindred,
Yeah.
Kindred Spirits is another show where they do investigations. And you see a great, they use scrying a lot. So you would really see a good example of scrying if you wanted to actually see it done. The episode of Gettysburg, I think, was really a wonderful scrying example. But wizards, witches, and fortune tellers use this method to receive a reflection or image. Scrying can be done by looking into anything with a smooth reflective surface, such as a crystal ball, water, glass, or a mirror. It is said that one can receive clairvoyant visions through this image as you look through a mirror, through a window. So basically, I've seen it done with a mirror. I've never done any scrying. Have you, Kim?
I have not done scrying intentionally, but I have seen something while looking through glass window.
Okay.
In the glass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, is that really behind me, or do you know what I mean? Is
right.
that would you think that would be the same thing?
I think so.
You see something in the glass.
Yeah. And usually with scrying,
reflecting behind you.
You kind of stare at it until your eyes get a little blurry.
Little, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and I've seen it done with candles. Like you're staring at the candle with the mirror behind it. And so you're and then it just kind of gets kind of blurry in that. I might have to try scrying just to see. I always found
it. Like I said, I didn't do it I didn't know that that's what I was doing.
Right.
When I did that. So.
Yeah. Well, we have to try it again since it worked so well for you.
Yeah, and now that I know that's what that is.
Yeah. Now there's a name for it.
Right.
Okay, so number 6 is crystals. I would have put that number 1 myself, but what? It's not my top 10 list. It's the top 10 list on
That's right.
on Google. So crystals are number 6. Crystals are energy-filled stones that can touch subconscious minds and deep emotions. They have been used in divination and healing since the earliest of times. Each crystal has its meaning and guidance for daily use. They can relate to tarot, astrology, and runes and have the ability to heal chakras. Crystals contain meanings that can help us invoke and manifest the life we desire. Through spells and rituals, they offer protection against negative energies.
Yeah.
And they're pretty.
They are pretty.
I had to say it. It. Okay.
Definitely.
Number 7 is herbs, tea, and coffee. Who would have thunk it? Herbs, tea, and coffee. And of course,
Well, okay. Go with your description. Are they talking about like the coffee grounds?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, this is an old practice used to interpret the herbs, tea leaves, and coffee grounds left in a cup after someone drinks their beverage. Herbs and plants are also used to heal and ward off negative energy. So you've got the herbs, which I've got on my altar. I've got a teacup that Mom had given me full of herbs that are used for a specific purpose. So herbs are big. And then, of course, great grandma used to do the tea leaves, I believe.
Right.
But I've never met someone who could read tea leaves. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool to see. Yeah,
that would be cool. Yeah. Okay, so number 8, Kim's favorite, Ouija boards.
Not so much.
Okay. Ouija board, an enchanted board, was invented in 1892 by Elijah Bond after World War I. Many homes had a Ouija board to connect with loved ones. And that was when the spiritual movement was huge during that period. Seances were really big during this period.
Right.
This board communicates with spirits from the afterlife and or other dimensions, stressing the or other dimensions. However, this board can present some complications if the user does not understand who they are calling for. An experienced psychic medium will know who to ask for and how to protect themselves to avoid unknowing possession or unwilling actions.
Yes. Experienced. Keyword, experienced.
But you know what? They sell this in the kids section as a toy. Or they used to.
Yeah.
We haven't been, at the game section of a toy area in a while. But yeah, I mean, they used to be sold as a toy, as a game. Now,
Right.
funny story, or I find it funny. Paranormal convention. It was 3 years ago. And there was a group that came every year that had Ouija boards. And it was a big booth. They had shelves and they had antique Ouija boards. They had all kinds of Ouija boards. And my booth has always been kind of like 4 away, no matter where, 4 away from that one. And the last time they were there, because they didn't come the following year when they changed locations or venues, but Friday night, day 1, we're open, and Ouija boards sporadically started jumping off the shelf. Like 3, boom, boom, boom. And the guy's like, scrambling around, pick them up. And, everybody's kind of looking at him like, oh, okay, good luck with those. It's like, because I mean, it's a paranormal convention. There's many psychics in the room, whether or not they were practicing psychics or whatever. But you've got all these psychics that are now looking at Ouija board like, okay. And he had a psychic that was doing readings right next to him, and she had put up a little divider because she was trying to block off the energy from the Ouija boards. So it was very obvious that she was not happy being next to the Ouija board booth. So the next day, like 8 times, random, and it wasn't the same one. So it's not like the air conditioner was kicking on and it was so strong it could blow a board off. Because it was never the same boards. It was different boards. And finally the guy's like, these are not haunted. He's like, because I'm sure that was hurting his Ouija board sales, because he was there to sell these Ouija boards. But yeah, it was pretty, it was something to watch.
Exactly. And I'm sure all the energy from everybody else watching this happen was not helping the situation.
Correct.
So keeping them up on the walls, or up on the shelves.
And he was presenting that day, and he was presenting to try to debunk, the bad juju that's linked to
reputation,
to Ouija boards. And I'm thinking something is working against you here, bud, because they're popping off they were popping out like a toaster hit them. It's just like everywhere. But yeah.
These are not supporting your concept, sir.
Exactly. It was like, well, someone is messing with you. Maybe you may want to rethink that. Like I said, he wasn't there the following year, so I hope he's okay.
Probably a good thing.
I hope he's okay.
Because the next year it would have been held at a haunted location.
Yes, it was definitely at a haunted location, and with lots of diverse energy. Yeah, it was. Yeah, so it would have been something to see it there. So number 9 is dowsing, and that's using the dowsing rods. Dowsing involves using a Y-shaped tree branch or a magnetic metal tool to locate oil, water, and minerals beneath the earth. By combining geomagnetic energy and psychic abilities, you can find peoples, pets, and lost objects. To use this divinity tool, the user holds on to the dowser and walks along the earth. It is said that when they walk over an object, the Y-shaped tool shakes or vibrates, indicating the object's location beneath the soil.
Right.
Number 10 is pendulum. Pendulum is a chain with a crystal attached to it that swings in all directions. The pendulum swings back and forth until a change in the air or dense friction is created to stop the swinging. Psychics use pendulums to find a location on a map or answer yes or no questions. Some psychics even use the pendulum in past life regression readings. The energy or forces are slight, but they intend to stop and move the pendulum swing in their desired direction to deliver a message.
Just like you've had happening.
Yes.
So it's so cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. That's just the top 10 list. And obviously there's many psychic tools, and we're unable to do all of them because I think that would just get a little monotonous,
Right.
to do an entire series. So that wraps up kind of a recap of the tools that are out there, and that just segues us into our next topic, which is not topless psychics, but toolless psychics.
Yeah. Thank you for
Claire.
distinguishing
Yes.
between the two.
Yes, very important.
What do we mean by toolless?
Well, toolless is basically you're relying on your abilities, and you're not utilizing any divining tools other than yourself. So as we went through the psychic types, clairvoyance, we went through the clairs.
Right.
So that, if you're using your clairs to do readings or just live everyday life and you're using your clairs, you're being a toolless psychic.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So a toolless psychic is basically honing those skills, and you may want to go back and visit the clairs episodes in the series, because it's been a while, and you may want to go back and you might hear something different that you didn't hear before, because maybe you're in a different place in your growth and now you're ready to hear some things that maybe you weren't to begin with, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So basically your toolless psychic is honing in on actually using your clairs, what all clairs you have, what you have developed. It's basically going to be utilizing communication with spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what a toolless psychic is. Now, a lot of times when you're psychic and you're not focused on, I want to make sure I say this correctly, and you're not focused on your gifts, you're doing things every day psychically, and you don't realize you're doing things every day psychically.
Yeah, I could see that, because the more that we get into this, the podcast and everything and all the research, there are things that I can now put names on as to doing things psychically that I didn't realize that's what it was.
That's what you were doing.
Right, that's what I was doing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, just like when we were talking about telepathy in that episode, where I was hearing people's thoughts, I didn't realize I was doing that. I thought,
Right.
I heard their voice plain as day. I thought they were speaking.
Right.
So that's an example of toolless psychic. You're doing something that you didn't realize you could do, and you were doing it psychically.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah. So, my theory, and what I'm getting as we're talking, is that when these things happen, you should write them down, because as we segue into building confidence, the more hits you get that are accurate, your confidence is going to grow.
Right. As long as you've identified that that's what is happening, or you're open
Yes, and that
to identifying that that's what's happening.
right. Yeah. So basically, this this section of this episode is about you and where you're at in your development, and you figuring out what you are actually doing psychically.
Right.
Because
right.
you're operating with no tools. And you are doing it every day. Everybody's doing things. Everybody has abilities. Everybody has different levels of abilities depending on how open they are, how grounded they are, how they're working their development. Some people are born wide open, and so they're doing things all the time psychically and maybe don't realize it. I mean, I never put a name to it growing up because I, first of all, didn't know the name.
Right. Yeah,
It wasn't
definitely.
talked about,
Right. Or it was the typical, um, oh, you're making that up, or oh, no, that's not real, or right, Carrie, sure, kind of
Yeah,
thing, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. And, doing this deep dive retrospect of yourself is going to help you with your fears. Because as you start identifying things, and that means looking at it honestly and try to go back to a situation where someone said, how did you know that? Or you didn't go at the certain time because you just felt like you shouldn't. And then what happened if you had gone? Like with a car accident, or, it's kind of starting to really look at things openly and see, if it just starts with, did anything psychic happen today? Did I do anything today that was psychic? Or and don't put, if you don't want to put the name psychic to it, did I do anything today where I was nudged to do something different? Or I heard a voice that said this, or just one, or I saw a flash a picture, which would be your clairvoyance.
Mm-hmm.
And just
Right.
start opening them and identifying these things as they
Mm-hmm.
occur.
Right. Right.
Because I think that once you realize, like, you didn't realize you were scrying that day,
Exactly.
but you did.
But I did. Yep.
So yeah, so that is something that you used your abilities for.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You did use a tool, but you did it without realizing you were using your psychic abilities to do it.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Putting the name on it is the
Right.
first part of identifying that you're doing something, or recognizing,
Exactly.
well, why did that happen that way? And then try to determine, was this psychic
Right. Or
communication, whatever?
yeah, yeah. Or people call it serendipity, when things happen, kind of happenstance type thing. And I believe it's everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
You're there for a reason. And usually it's there because of you need to do something. You need to be there for whatever reason. We don't know, depending on the situation. But I think the more that you do identify what a particular thing is when it's psychic, I had a very dear friend, that didn't work directly with, but was like a work friend, and he was a wonderful man, just a wonderful man, and had been. I don't understand mountain biking because it seems very dangerous, but he was just loved mountain biking, and he had broken his shoulder blade mountain biking,
Yeah.
and he was out of work for forever for that. I mean, that had to heal. And he came back to work, and I was the day he came back, he hadn't officially started yet. He had to bring his release and get everything going and stuff. And I ran into him, and the energy that was shooting off him gave me goosebumps all over my body.
Oh,
I have
wow.
never felt that energy before, and I didn't understand what it was. I'm talking to him. We're in the hallway where I work, and people buzzing around, and I'm just like, what is this? And I mean, I went back to my office, and I was shaking my arms trying to get it to stop. And I'm like,
Wow.
I didn't understand what was going on. And then he came back to work, and 3 days later, he was riding his bike with someone else, and their tires touched, and he suffered traumatic brain injury.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and then eventually, he did pass away. But he not only hit one side of his head, is from impact, his head bounced up and then hit the other side, so he shattered his entire skull.
Wow.
Yeah, and so in retrospect, I was getting all of his angels and people that were around him during this period.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
and
Yeah.
and I wasn't shown any pictures. I wasn't shown anything to say, hey, this was his path. This is what was supposed to happen. And there were those with him leading up to this path. And I had gone to visit, he was in a coma, and I'd gone to visit him in the hospital room, and this woman came in and sat down next to me, and she looked like one of my people, but younger. She definitely she had the gemstones rocking and all this kind of stuff, and he played music, and she was one of his music friends.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, and we were, and a male nurse came in, and he said, I need you guys, someone to talk to him to try to, and she goes, well, I'm going to let you do that. And she left the room. I'm like, well, that's weird. Okay. So I was talking to him, and, just told him who I was and from work, just because I didn't know how much, damage he had.
Right.
And the nurse he opened his eyes, pulled the eyelids up, and his eyes were shooting all over the place. And when I talked, he looked right at me.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like, you had an accident, you're okay, and just nothing to be afraid of and everything. And I messaged his sister when I got home. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what happened. Well, she called the hospital, and she said there was no male nurse.
No way.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, and I didn't realize we were having a psychic moment at that point either.
Oh, yeah.
And the next day he woke up from the coma.
Wow.
Yeah. Because she's like, because I upset her, not meaning to, because, here her brother's in a coma after serious injuries. And I'm like, oh yeah, his eyes were moving around and everything. And, I'm explaining how he pulled the eyelids up and everything. And, and then like an hour later, I called the hospital and I talked to the nurse's station, and there's no male nurse there. And blah, blah. I'm like, oh, she's mad. And I could feel she was mad, and I'm like, but it happened. I'm like, this is really weird,
Yeah.
But it turned out to be I had to go back and identify what that was.
Right.
Once I got over well, what happened? Why is she mad at me? And this really happened, and why are they not believing me? And that once I got the emotion out of it, then I'm like, oh, that's what happened. Okay.
Wow.
But so in the moment, you may not recognize that you're having a psychic moment. If you're just starting to identify things. Like, it really bothered me, the whole goosebump thing. And I felt it one other time, not as severe, but I felt it one other time running into someone, and I'm like, oh, I hope you're okay. Just like, you got a lot of people around you right now. And it's just, it was just picking up so much of that energy. And I was open with him, because I, hadn't started. I knew I had abilities, but I hadn't started working on them. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of times I was wide open, and not realizing it, because I hadn't worked on my grounding, and I wasn't meditating at the time, and all this stuff. So it just kind of like would happen. So if you're not grounded, you're doing probably a lot of psychic stuff.
Yeah.
You're just not catching on.
Yeah, I can vouch for that one. Yeah. I could start
give us something that you've done.
Well, I've given the examples of seeing the spirits and talking to them at the bank I used to work at and stuff like that. There was so much energy there that I didn't realize that that's what all that was. You know what I'm saying? Until later in life that I realized that the things that I kept looking for in my office were disappearing, but nobody was coming in and taking them. I think I had a jokester playing some tricks on me, and I was feeling that kind of energy around me.
But you didn't, yeah, and you didn't know what you were dealing with,
right?
But Kim has problems accepting her psychic abilities.
Well,
and mentioning them, because you've done stuff recently.
Yeah, well,
that don't pertain to ghosts.
A lot of it I do relate to ghosts, though. So,
but you do other things that.
Well, hearing people that I'm around say things, and in my head and stuff like that, doing the telepathic messages and everything. The most recent one is that well, not most recent, but realization that that's what happened. I picked up on something a year ago without going into the details of it, and it was another situation of you need to be careful with this. And I told the person that I was talking to that they needed to be careful around this other person because things just didn't feel right or were shady. And to be careful around them, protect your things, keep your eye out, because this is what I'm feeling. And that all blew up this week and last week. It was,
Oh, really?
Yes.
Really?
It all became apparent and real. And, I was just like, well, I don't want to say I told you so, but I gave you fair warning, and I've been warning you off and on throughout this year to keep your eyes open and your mind opened, and it all came to fruition this past couple weeks. So, yeah. The ending.
I'll be wanting a scoop on that story offline.
Yeah. Today and tomorrow are going to be the culmination of the whole situation. So, yeah. That's without going. Yeah, that's without going into in-depth details. To protect the innocent and the guilty. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. To protect everybody.
Yeah.
But see, that's a good example of you get a psychic hit and you can't make the person listen, but you can do your part to give the message.
Yes.
And I think that, how did you feel confidently wise on this? Because, you've been working on your abilities. You've been working on your confidence. When you got the message, were you confident about it? Or were you like going, I don't want to tell this person this?
Oh, no. I knew right away when the whole situation started and when I first had my own individual dealings with this person that person shouldn't be trusted. So
you were reading them.
I was reading them. This was before you and I started doing research for the podcast and everything, because it was over a year ago. So I knew something was shady there. I felt it. It reminded me of when I talked on previous episode about how I met my husband's former boss, and he even had to shake his hand to get the message that this guy is shady. That whole experience. So I felt as though it was that same type of feelings, and was picking up this. Okay, we need to document everything that happens from here on out because this is not right. And so I was really confident that I was picking up correctly on that one. It was just trying to get everybody else that would be involved in this to see without giving them a what do you call it? You're just constantly feeding them negativity about somebody else. I was just trying to get them to be open-minded and pay attention, because I could have been off, but I knew I wasn't. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
not
think
to
it's
sound
funny,
ego-y, but
that, no. But see, you identified it from a previous experience, so you knew what was happening psychically.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
So you knew what was going on. Like, okay, this is what I'm getting, and you learn to respect those hits when you get them.
Yes.
I think it's really funny that when someone lives with a psychic, they forget you're psychic.
Yeah. And they don't.
And so you tell them something.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about my own, and then they're like, you're like, oh, no, really, seriously, you need to think about this because this is what I'm getting. And even when you say this is what I'm getting, I guess they're so caught up in themselves and their thoughts that they're not thinking that, hey, I'm getting this message for you, Right. And then it's funny when it comes to culmination and they come back and go, oh, yeah, you were right. And I'm like, yeah, because I was being told, I was being told what to tell you. I was being told this was going on, but you don't want to listen. Free will.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. free will.
It's like if you ask the psychic in the room, you probably want to listen. What the answer
Yeah.
is.
But then that means that they also have
It was
to
really
take in and accept that all is happening, that the psychic does have these
right.
abilities, and you should have confidence in their
Yeah.
and they may not be at that mindset to accept those things, you know.
Well, I think that there's always doubt lingering in the back of people's minds that don't believe they. It's not like they don't believe in you. They just kind of like, okay, whatever. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Not necessarily believing in you. They're not saying you're a fraud or a liar, but they're just kind of like whatever. And then when you deliver this message, it's kind of like, okay, whatever. And then it's like, oh, I mean, I can't tell you how many times my ex said, you were right. And I'm like, dude, I was giving you the message, And I even started joking with this just in,
Yeah.
just to kind of draw attention to the fact that I'm giving you a psychic message, But
Right.
you don't have to listen to it because, again, it's free will.
Right.
So,
but that's a prime example of you having built your psychic confidence, your ability, your confidence in your ability to receive, interpret, and give the messages that are
right.
coming while using your toolless psychic abilities. Whereas
and I'm not
people
right.
like me that are still trying to claim or take possession of, or I don't know, what do you ever want to call it, understand that what you're seeing, feeling, thinking, getting the message for is valid and worth tapping into and using and sharing. And that is digging yourself out of that hole from your past, whatever it was, that said, shut that down. That is not real. Shut it down. What you're saying is not true. What you're thinking and feeling is invalid or not accurate, and you shouldn't feel that way. So you got to, build that confidence from that past. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yeah, no, it does. And am I 100% correct? No, I'm not. Sometimes ego says things that, that you say, oh, I just got this hit, blah, blah, blah. It is wrong. Like, well, okay, that happens. No big deal. I didn't get it right. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people don't really focus on being a toolless psychic because of that fear factor of not having it accurate 100% of the time.
Right. They're going to be more wanting a tool from the toolbox to validate what they are perceiving. And they could use that as a crutch.
And that's okay.
Let's just say that. Yeah, and that's fine to build up your confidence and stuff, and to validate everything that you are receiving psychically.
But at some point, you have to not rely on your tools all the time. Like we all know, I love my pendulum, and I use my pendulum, and I will use the cards on occasion, but I don't do the cards daily. I don't use my pendulum daily because, I try to rely and build my own skills, build those muscles to try to, be a better psychic. Because I think if I'm a better psychic, I'm going to be a better friend. I'm going to be a better person. Because it's going to help me to, identify people in situations. It's going to allow me to help people.
Right.
I'm obviously not setting up booth and doing this at this stage. I may do that when I retire. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's a long ways off. Or I might do it next year because I don't know what the plan is for me yet.
Right.
and I'm open to the plan. That's happening and supposed to happen. I, last week it was funny. I try to be very shut down at work. I turn everything off psychically,
Oh, you would have
and so I
to.
was
My
practicing
goodness.
opening. Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of emotion and a lot of well, the place is haunted too, but there's a lot
Hmm.
of negative emotions and because when you have a group of people doing diverse stuff, it's just whatever.
Hmm.
So I was practicing opening and closing my third eye. I know that sounds silly, but I thought, okay, I'm gonna, kind of like open my eye, So I was doing these little exercises throughout the
Right.
day.
Right.
Close my third eye, open my third eye. Yeah, I just randomly thought, I'm gonna work on my third eye. Well, one of my coworkers came over and she listens to the podcast religiously. She's meditating. She's working on her abilities. She has psychic children, and so this has been a very good opportunity for her to help identify what's going on with her kids psychically as well.
Hmm.
And she comes over, and I had just opened up my third eye, and I'm like, oh. And she comes over, she's real excited about something, and she's asking my opinion, and it's dealing with psychic abilities and stuff. And so she tells me, it was about a dream, and she's I could tell the dream, I guess. She'd dream about snakes. They were black snakes, and one snake was black with yellow on it, and one snake was black with green. Now, sorry, black with blue. She does not like reptiles. She does not. She is very adamant about there's no such thing as a good snake.
Same sometimes.
It's kind of, yeah. And a friend of hers that had a dream about black and green snakes. So she was like, asking questions. How could we both have, snake dreams? And I said, well, if you're really good friends and you both have abilities, then you could basically visit each other in your dreams, or you could have similar dreams. You
Hmm.
know,
Right. Right.
if the message is pertaining to somebody, if the message is pertaining to someone you both know, you could both be getting the same dream based on the person that you have in common that you know,
Hmm.
especially if it's a warning dream or you need to take a different look or different aspect kind of dream. And so she's going on about the dream, and she's like, well, blue and yellow make green. So she was logically left braining it to how these dreams, the snake dreams, worked together. And I just
Same.
looked at her and I'm like, huh? What'd you
Same.
say?
Same. That's what I do.
Yeah, same. Yeah. And so I'm looking at her and I'm like, well, you need to research. I said, what you need to do is, because you obviously have a fear of snakes. So I recommended that she Google dream meaning of snakes, because most of the, not the psychological dreaming sites, but the ones that that are about, spiritual meanings of the dreams. They give you, if you don't like something and this is in your dream, what it means. And if you like something in your dream, you like this thing that's in your dream, what it means. So if you don't like cats and you dream of cats, then cats are very negative for you in this dream. It means something negative. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes
So if
sense.
you don't like, yeah, so if you don't like snakes, then that's going to mean something. I said, but you also you had three colors, so you need to research the three. So you have three. I said, I don't know how many snakes you saw, but you have three colors. So three is an option here that you need to explore. And when you go into see what resonates with you, I said, and then you need to look at the colors. What does black mean in a dream? What does blue? What does yellow mean? And I'm talking to her, and I said, who's the man? And she went, what? And I said, who's the man? And so because I'm open. And so she tells me she goes, well, yesterday, blah, 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 this. I'm like, oh, okay. I said, okay. And she's like, I said, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to. She goes, no, I can't. She goes, I came over wide open. I said, well, I'm wide open too. So here we go. I said, you have a snake in the grass. I said, there's someone around you that is not presenting themselves the way that they really are, or there's a situation, but you have a snake in the grass. So be careful. And she's like, oh my gosh, and I think so. If the other person had the same dream, then perhaps they're either picking up on you, or the same person. And that was a warning for both of you.
Oh, wow.
That there's a snake in the grass. That there is definitely a snake in the grass. And then I said something else. I'm like, okay, you have to go back to your desk now, because it's like, doing psychic readings or getting psychic hits for people sometimes can be a little, especially when she and we're going to get into psychic etiquette, but I'm just kind of like, how much am I supposed to tell her?
Oh,
she came to me.
Yeah.
And she wanted me to tell her about her dream.
Yeah, well, you did. To a point.
I did, but I was trying. Yes, but I was trying to. At first, I was deflecting. You need to go research this. You need to go look this up. Mm-hmm. Because I don't want to tell you what I'm getting, because, am I really supposed to tell you what I'm getting? Just because I get a hit doesn't mean I need to necessarily tell that person I'm getting a hit. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Sometimes we have life lessons we have to learn. So it's kind of like, when as you're honing in and identifying your Toolless psychic hits, by writing them down and going back and looking at it and say, oh yeah, I got this right. And okay, this wasn't right. Okay, well, try to figure out, was ego involved? How did it feel? Did it feel like your other hits that you get? And sometimes you get hits and they're very persistent.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so the persistent ones are usually the ones that I will express, because it's being very persistent.
Right.
So, if I get a hit on, and I don't get hits on everybody. Don't get me wrong. I don't get hits on everybody.
Yeah, right.
If someone is so closed off, you're not going to get a hit on them. And I don't try to read people. I don't go into a room. I'll read the room. I want to know whose energy is good and whose energy is not good. But I don't go in with the intent of, I'm going to do psychic readings on everybody in this room.
Mm-hmm, right.
Because I don't want to invade their privacy.
Right.
And I don't want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Some aspects you just don't want to know. And, so you turn your abilities off, or the closed sign goes up, or however you visualize shutting down your abilities, or turning them down or toning them down.
Yeah, right.
But even that way, even doing that though, if something wants to come through because it's needed, it will come through.
Right. It's that board hitting you in the head thing,
Right. Exactly. Because if you're going through with the majority of your week with your abilities turned off, that's not healthy either.
Right.
That you do need to have a balance of, like if I'm going to go to a casino, I'm going to have my abilities basically as shut down as much as possible, because there's a lot of bad energy in a casino.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So you have to have a balance of when to shut it down, when to have it open. But having it shut down all the time is not healthy for you. And as I'm talking to her, I said, and by the way, you're she was seeing yellow, and I'm like, yeah, but the yellow might mean your sacral chakra's off, because it's not moving. I'm like, it ain't spinning, baby. and she's evidently having some stomach issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, and I'm looking at him like, I said, you're not eating right. You need to start eating right. And I'm like, you poor thing, just wanted to talk about your dream, and here we go. It's like, we walked down that yellow brick road together. So it's.
Okay, so friend, next time ask Carrie if she's open or not before you start.
Yeah. But she was really funny about it. She goes, I came over wide open. I should have shut down. It's just I was I was excited to tell you about the dream. I wanted to know what you thought of the dream and everything. And I'm like, well, okay. And then she was telling me about how she goes to her. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I have a happy place when I meditate. If I'm under a lot of stress, I visualize it's a forest scene with a little pond, kind of thing, and it's kind of nice to have that to do when you're really stressed out. And she does that, and she does a field of tulips. And when she was trying to do it, she was in lavender, and she didn't want to be in lavender. She wanted to be in her field of tulips, and she kept trying to shift it. And I'm like, well, I think you need to think about why spirit had you in lavender, and not the fact that you couldn't get back to your tulips.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Identify, identify what the lavender means. So it was kind of, so she was getting psychic hits, and she was getting things psychically, but she was focusing on the wrong way, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because a dream is a psychic hit.
Yeah, that's true. Yep, that it is.
So.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I quit doing my third eye open close after that. Like, okay, we're just going to keep it closed until I go home, until I get in the car.
Yeah. Probably your best thing to do.
Yeah. And I think that we shut our abilities down at home a lot, or with people we're just meeting just because we really want to like them.
Yeah, that's a good point. You want to give people the benefit of the doubt to begin with, instead of,
right.
Just tacking
and then
in.
And then you kind of start talking badly to yourself, like, well, I'm not that good anyway, and and if you get a hit, you're like, oh, it's nothing, it's it's just probably my ego, and then you start to discredit what you're getting, which can hurt you, because then if you're starting to discredit spirit talks less.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And the more that you open up to spirit, the more you get.
Right. Now,
it's kind of the same as when you start seeing ghosts and you start identifying with them, you start seeing more.
Yeah. Especially once you've recognized that is what is happening. And I know I keep saying recognize that that's what's happening, is because when you were children and you were actually seeing ghosts, that was all discredited. The majority of the time, that's discredited. You're not seeing anybody under your bed. You're not doing this. You're not doing that, But you got
You're really holding on to that grudge.
I'm working on trying to let that go. You know what I'm saying?
You need to let that go.
I'm building my way out of it is what I'm trying to do, And then there's things like throughout my life, I have been told that I am a very good judge of character. And now I'm realizing that being a good judge of character is the psychic abilities of picking up on how people really are. And I didn't have an identifying, I didn't identify it as that. I was just like, oh, everybody thinks I'm a good judge of character. Okay, thank you. I guess I am, maybe not, but.
Yeah. Well, I think that, and it's funny, is like, because you are human, you don't use those abilities all the time to judge people, because you don't want to be wrong. You don't know them. You're trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. A lot of times we think people are like us and react to things the way we do, and that, I think, it's the biggest problem with developing your psychic abilities, is what Kim can do and what I can do are two totally different things.
Right.
And what our sister Julie does is a totally different thing.
Right. Yep.
There's different abilities. There's different types of psychics. There's, different things that we can do. And there's things we can't do. Especially, Kim has this rooted fear with her psychic abilities that obviously comes from when she was a child.
Yep. Definitely.
And as you said, you're building yourself out of that. Once you release those fears, I think you're also afraid of what's going to happen psychically.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so am I going to get this flood of stuff happening all at one time?
Yeah, I was picking that up.
Yeah, I mean, that's always there,
Get rid of one fear and another fear steps in.
Right.
But what if it does? And, Spirit's not, I feel Spirit's not going to give you more than you can handle, if you're grounded. I do believe that there are people that are wide open that don't know what's going on. I do believe that they sometimes feel like they have mental illnesses because they don't understand what's going on when they're having clairvoyance or when they're hearing, and don't get me wrong, there is mental illnesses
Mm-hmm. Right.
out there.
Right.
I'm not saying everybody that's got a mental illness has psychic abilities. I'm just saying that some people that are really open and very psychic think they have mental illnesses and don't want to say anything because they don't want anybody to think that they have a mental illness.
Right. Yeah.
But they could be wide open.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And just don't understand. Because, I remember the movie I See Dead People. What was that called? Sixth Sense.
Yeah, The Sixth Sense, yeah.
Yes. That gives you a very clear look at a psychic child who doesn't understand what's going on around them.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing dead people. They're seeing things that they're not prepared to see. He can't tell his mom. It's a very good movie, especially when you're embracing your psychic abilities to watch. But that's a clear example of where people think that you're having some sort of mental illness or breakdown when you just don't know how to react to something that's happening.
Right. Yep.
But I think where, meditating, asking your spirit team to surround you and protect you and have your protective stones and make that a common practice, then you're not going to have that onslaught of weirdness.
Well, I like to have a little bit of weirdness in my life, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
We all have weirdness in our lives. Yeah. But you see what I'm saying? I think you're more mentally prepared for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when I had that situation, where I had the goosebumps all over my body and I went back to my office and shook it off. That was overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I didn't understand what it meant. I'm like, what does this mean? What does this mean? And, what gives off electric energy? The paranormal.
Right.
I've gone to many places, where I'm doing a blessing and I'll be like, well, if you want to feel them, they're right over here. You feel where it's cold and that's where they're at because that's where they're drawing energy from the room is where it's cold. And, so if you are surrounded by a spiritual presence that's more than one person or just a big spiritual presence like an angel, that's going to be some massive energy coming off that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But at the time, I'm just like, what the heck is this? Is it on me? What's my thing? Is it on me? Did it come off him and on me? And, because I wasn't prepared. I didn't know what it was. So when it happened again, I'm like, oh, okay. Hope you're all right. Because you've got some heavy protective energy on you right now.
Right.
Or angelic energy or your spirit team is really on you right now. And they're letting me know that they're there.
Right. Now, did this happen around the time or after the time that you had that attachment and it was released? And that's why you reacted so strongly to it? Or is this just the strong...
This was after. The attachment was probably about 4 years ago.
Okay.
4 or 5 years ago. It's the first time I met I can't call her my best friend, but my best psychic. Yeah. She's my best psychic medium. She's the one who does my readings for me.
Well, were you afraid that that's what had happened again? The attachment? Or were you just overpowered by the feelings, the emotions and everything?
I was overwhelmed by the feelings.
Gotcha.
And how my body was reacting to it. No, it wasn't like the attachment. The attachment I'd had for a long time, evidently. And so I had acclimated to that feel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which, good. She's a Reiki master and a psychic medium. So she was able to detach the, attachment.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where it went, but he was a mischievous teenager in spirit.
Yeah, that had been there for a really long time. Little scoundrel.
Yes, and Yes, and it was really odd when she did this. Because it was the very first time I went to the psychic convention, or not psychic convention, the paranormal convention, and she kept coming by my booth, and so she was basically being drawn to me for reasons, and so I'm like, I'm gonna get a psychic reading from her, and that's when it came up, and then it was later in the evening, and then I went home or went to my sister's house where I was staying for the night, and my balance was off. I was having trouble walking down the stairs. I nearly stumbled going down the stairs, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is wrong? And I went back to her the next day. I said, are you sure you got rid of it? Because my balance is off. It's just crazy. And she was, well, your balance is off because you were used to the spirit, and you kind of adjusted for it. Now that it's gone, you've got to get your balance back. And I'm like, that's really weird.
Wow. Okay, so
that was before I started my spiritual journey.
Right. So you were actually just picking up on all of the energy that was tied to the spirits and angels that were around those people, not necessarily having your.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I have I have my spirit team that protects me, and so there's no more attachments.
Mm-hmm.
My spirit team is surrounding me all the time. I ask them to. I'll ask whatever angel I need at this moment. Who better than me. I don't know. For protection, and I make a point every day to ask for protection. I don't know if I need to, but I do it.
Does that help you build your confidence in your psychic abilities and what you're getting? Because you've got that protection around you?
I've got my team with me. Yeah. I mean, I feel like my spirit team's with me a lot. Sometimes at work, I may go, okay, I need my team, to step up. Because, again, it's free will.
Mm-hmm.
Your spirit team is with you.
Right.
But they're waiting for you to ask them.
Right.
To help you.
Right.
They're just kind of like holding out and waiting and seeing if you're going to say anything or if you want them to do anything. And I think that's why I do it daily. Like, okay, I need my spirit team to surround me and help me through this situation, or help me through today, protect me, keep me safe, spiritually and physically.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, that's a good point. The physically too, not just spiritually. Yeah.
And I try to daily when I get home release anything that doesn't serve me, and try to cut cords that don't need to be there, because you could easily get cords from meeting someone new, and if you hit it off, you could actually have a cord to them now. And so I always try to cut cords, because I don't need someone's feelings. I have enough of my own. I don't need their feelings as well.
Yeah, same.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
And like we talked about in the empath series, you identify it, like, okay, is this mine or yours?
Mm-hmm.
And I do that with, a psychic hit. If I'm uncertain, I'm like, okay, is this spirit or is this ego? And I'll ask, is this spirit or is this ego? And I listen to how the response is, because ego doesn't answer the same way for me as what spirit does.
Right. Yeah. Because the ego's negative in its message, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes if you're getting told no and you really want it to be a yes, you also kind of like, well, what,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe if I ask it this way, I'll get the yes, and so then you're discrediting your psychic abilities doing that as well, because you were told. You asked a question, you got an answer. You're pretty sure it's not ego. So we covered the top 10 tools in the toolbox that you can research, and we have covered, I think, pretty well Toolless psychics. What do you think, Kim?
Oh, I agree. I think we've covered everything there. A lot of information.
Okay.
Good information.
Yes. Lots of information. Hopefully it resonates with our listeners, and it can help some people gain their confidence.
Mm-hmm.
The confidence level is basically you and what you're willing to accept.
Right.
Of yourself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And your ability.
Yeah. Right. And to identify that that's what you're experiencing, and build it from there.
Yes. And I do think writing it down makes it easier to go back because you've written down detail. Like, okay, so on this day, this is what I got. You write down what your feelings were, whatever happened, whatever your psychic hit was, whether it was clairvoyant or clairsentient, whatever it was. And then I put date. You can put the time down if you want, and then just wait, because a lot of times these hits aren't something that, there's, spirit world has a different time frame than the living.
Right. Yeah.
And we've talked about that, where it could be 3 days, 3 months, 3 years, down the road before something happens. And so writing it down, and that you're like, you want to go back through your journal or wherever you're putting this, and go back and look and see, did this happen?
Right.
Or when something happens and you have the aha moment, oh, I remember writing that down. Let me go back and find it and see how accurate you were.
Yeah, I can see where that would make a difference in your confidence.
It would make a huge difference in your confidence, and cutting yourself some slack. You're not going to get it right all the time.
Right.
And that's okay.
Right.
No one's right 100% of the time. Even that narcissist is not right 100% of the time. So
that's right. And it's okay.
And it's okay. Yep.
Yeah. All right. I think we've covered it all. Sounds great.
I think so too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then, thank you everyone for listening to today's episode. I hope you found it useful and a little entertaining, if not a lot.
Yeah. I agree. So our next episode, we are going to be talking about psychic etiquette and what the do's and don'ts are, and also the different psychic styles.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Bye.
Bye. May your light shine bright.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast, Psychic Bent. If you enjoyed Psychic Bent, please like, follow, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to Psychic Bent. We can be reached on Facebook at Psychic Bent Podcast. Our email address is psychicbent1@gmail.com. May your light shine bright.